I was born in 1985 into a Catholic family in Poland. The values of faith in God, family and work were highly praised and never subject to doubt, both in my family and in the village I grew up in. I remember I had moments when I also wanted to become a nun. Maybe I had some intuition about it, maybe some connection from the past, I do not know. Anyway, that's not me, just to say. That's a quote from a friend who lives in Poland. And I'll come back to that. So I just briefly wanted to say why I went to Poland. I went because Padmasambhava asked me. Basically, she said if we didn't go, the women wouldn't be able to have a women's retreat, and the guys had already had one of their own, and that was quite a motivating factor to go. Also, we'd been ordained together in 2009, and it's hard to sometimes spend time together, so that was the idea, so we'd spent a room for 3 months together, the 6 of us, so it just felt like a great opportunity to work together. But what ended up happening was I ended up just sort of really falling in love with the women there. There was something about the communication that was very, very immediate and very, very direct. I just want to give you an example of this. So I was sort of flying in for the first retreat, and on my way I sort of thought, gosh, I'm not really sure where I'm staying tonight, or where am I going to stay when the retreat ends as well. But I know that Ivona, someone called Ivona, was picking me up, and we'd had some Facebook contact, but I didn't even have her mobile, so I was thinking, oh wow, how will this all work? Anyway, luckily she was there to meet me at the airport, and we just got on really, really well, and in a very short space of time we were sort of sharing life stories, and in a way sharing why the Dharma was important, so in a way the dukkha in our lives that sort of brought us to kind of take the Dharma, want to move towards the Dharma. And we got lost quite a few times on the journey to our house, because it was just like something else was happening in that car on our first meeting. And then I met her dog, and later on I met her husband, and and then she said to me the evening I was staying over at her. She said, "Oh, I decided that if I didn't like you, I was going to leave you at Sangha, which is Krakow Buddhist Centre, and someone else would put you up." And what I really liked was actually we'd formed enough of a friendship for her to just really be herself. And I just felt like I could really relax. It was just quite incredible, really. So, and that's not just one example, actually. So I've had quite a few. So a lot of the conversations I've had have just been very, very strong about people's lives. So not only has the communication gone deep very, very quickly with kind of strangers, but also there's just something about a hunger for the Dharma. So we just sort of shared that already. We already sort of had that in common, and none of the discussions around the Dharma were theoretical. They were really about how to live one's life, how to have good relationships, how to, I don't know a lot about families, but how to bring up families. It was just very, very moving, and I found it incredibly nourishing, actually. So I want to share a memory from the last retreat that I did there. So this was last year. Padmasambhava couldn't come because it's not always easy getting dates together. But anyway, she was a sort of vision behind it. So I asked Samantha Badru to come. Samantha Badru is my KM. And again, it was just a really good way of sort of spending time together. And she's got Polish roots as well. So this was the final night of our retreat. And we were in this really dark gym room. For some reason, folks seem to like it quite dark. So anyway, so we're in this really dark gym room, and Samantha Badri had led us a bit in exploring metta. We did a short sit, and Anya, the quote, I'll come back to that. So there's a quote from Anya at the start of my talk. And Anya had led the women in the threefold puja in Polish, which was just very, very moving, actually. I was doing the refuges and precepts in call and response, and then there was this little ritual around the Brahma Viharas chant that's sort of put together. And it was just like something really magical happened. It was almost as if this tangible sense of metta was created, and we were just relating to each other in a really different way. Just from metta, it's just, sometimes that just happens, doesn't it? And it just felt like a real vision of sangha, actually, that we'd managed to kind of create together. So if you come and study the Dharma, and have sort of a shared framework. So we're really lucky that Living with Kindness has been translated into Polish. sangha comes into being. And then right at the end of that evening, our little team, so Samantha Badri, Anya, Magda, Alicia and myself, we sort of met in our bedroom and we all just hugged. We sort of knew something had come into being. And that's also because ritual's not very easy. So the background in Poland is 90% of people are Polish. And also communist. Oh, Catholic. Sorry, they are Polish. Sorry, they're Catholic with a communist background. Thank you. So actually, that's really, really difficult. It's like they're trying to move away in a funny sort of way from religion. So just to kind of start to wrap it up a little bit, I just want to say a few words about Anya. So some of you will know Anya Markovic. She lived here for a couple of years. I had to ask her when I met her because she's one of those people that when she's in your life, it feels like she's never not been in your life. So apparently I met her in 2014. And she's tirelessly tried to get Dharmacharinis to come. So at the moment there isn't a Dharmacharini living in Poland. So just to say a little bit about how the Dharma has changed her life. So Anya ended up asking for ordination on a retreat, actually Sadaloka, wherever he is, came over to run with other people. So retreats, no matter how big or small or like short for like a weekend, can just be a real context for people to go deeper together as well. So this is from Anya. So obviously at church, I did not find what I was looking for. So there was something missing for me. At the time I started to write my PhD, I decided to go and learn how to meditate. And this is where my Dharma life begins. In August 2012, I went to Sangha, which is Krakow Buddhist Center, for the first time, and I felt I'm home. I was very shy, sitting in the corner, and not wanting to have much contact with anyone from the centre. I also did not want to know anything about Buddhism. I had had enough memories connected to the oppression of religion, so did not really want to get into a new one. But after 3 months of someone telling me about the book they'd read, they were telling me that there was this book about the attitudes Buddhist parents could have towards their children. So I thought, oh, that's really interesting, I'll read it, and I did. And it was, What is the Sangha? Ha. Not so much about parenting from this book, but this book became my Bible, and I knew that Bhante was my teacher. I read Bhante's words with the sense that what he expressed, I already knew it, but somehow had not been able to give expression to it myself. It was mine, it was my vision given to me by Bhante Sangharakshita. A vision of how one could live collectively. On the retreat with Sadalokan team, I asked for ordination, and a year later I finished my PhD and decided to apply for the Dharma Life course. And this is how my experience of the wider Sangha began, studying the Dharma, creating community, living with Bhante, working at Adhisthana, and training for ordination. So a bit thoughts from becoming a nun to a Dharma practitioner who will hopefully be joining our order. So that clearly we know how transformative the Dharma is. So I've really appreciated sort of just recognising more and more that we can create environments within which we can practice together. And actually if the environment, that the world we live in, isn't very conducive to our growth, it can really, our conditioning can go really, really deep. And it can really stop people experiencing freedom and becoming more who they really are. So just to end, I'd like to rejoice in Nitya Bandhu, because without him there wouldn't be a women's Sangha out there. And there are many other really important order members doing stuff there as well, but I don't have the time. I don't know how I'm doing for time, but anyway, I don't have the time to say that. But Nitya Bandhu also gave up his home so me and Samantha Badri could stay there to do, before the retreat last year. And I'd also like to rejoice in Vidyatara, who's leaving Australia to come and be the only Dharmacharini living there to just support the women and support the Sangha, and also just, show another way of practicing. But before ending, I'd also just like to rejoice. We have our own very first Polish Dharmacharini, Upekshanandi, who might be here. And anyway, she's going to be leading a retreat this year out there in Poland, and she would have come and joined me in Samantha Badri, but there was the big young ones thing happening, so, she couldn't join us. So, just to end, what I'd like to say is if a friend invites you to do something, just say yes, even if it's a bit out of your comfort zone.